A fresh new year has begun, and if you're setting new goals for your business, it's extremely difficult to reach them without the right people on your team. And ZipRecruiter has transformed how you go about finding the right people. ZipRecruiter posts your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click. Then ZipRecruiter actively looks for the most qualified candidates and invite them to apply. They even review every application to identify the top candidates, so you never miss a great match. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you. It finds them. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes and industries to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. That's with a PH, not a V. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. One more time to try it for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Stephen A. with a PH, not a V.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Welcome to hour number 2 of week 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you nationwide in over 250 markets across the United States of America. And, of course, still on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call in to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. And it's always my privilege to have my next guest on the line, NFL analyst extraordinaire. You can catch him on NFL Live today. Could have caught him on SportsCenter this morning, this afternoon, last night. The one and only Ryan Clark is on the line with yours truly. He'll also be a part of the NFL Live. So, you know, I mean, that's today. College football, he'll be talking about that as well. He's a graduate of LSU, y'all. LSU. They're not playing in the national championship tonight, which I'm quite sure perturbs him. But nevertheless, he'll be watching it. What's going on, Ryan? How are you, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Your thoughts, first of all, about the national championship game tonight. Who do you have and why?
I'm going with Bama. I think that if you watch what Jalen Hurts has done, this is a guy that doesn't make losing football plays. Even if you go back to the game last year against Clemson, he made the play to put Alabama up that made Deshaun Watson have to go down and make that epic drive to win it. And so I think this defense, being prepared the way Nick Saban will have this team prepared to play against Georgia. And also, Georgia's style of play really plays into the hands of Alabama. They're hard to run right at, and I think Alabama has more talent to win tonight against Georgia and Kirby Smart.
So is that your way of saying Nick Chubb and Sony Michel won't rush for over 326 yards? Is that your way of saying that?
It won't look like Oklahoma for sure. Absolutely.
Ryan Clark right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Let's transition to the NFL, Ryan Clark. Your thoughts about what was the biggest surprise you saw from the weekend festivities, weekend playoff action? Kansas City losing to Tennessee, Buffalo losing to Jacksonville. Of course, the Atlanta Falcons upsetting the Los Angeles Rams, and then of course New Orleans beating Carolina. What was your biggest surprise?
It was actually Atlanta's secondary. If you watched Poole, Keanu Neal, Robert Alford, Trufant, the plays they were able to make down the field on the Los Angeles Rams receivers, and also the open field tackles that they made, that was the difference in the game. Them being able to stop big plays because of how sound and how technical they played the game was a huge reason that they won. And I'm also kind of, mystified the fact that Todd Gurley only had 14 rushes when he was averaging 7 yards per carry. And so when you couple Todd Gurley lack of touches and also the way the secondary played in Atlanta, this defense played a great game. And it looks to me like this team could be moving on to the NFC Championship because I think they're better than the Eagles are with Nick Foles at quarterback as well.
Sammy Watkins didn't have a good game as far as I'm concerned, dropped too many passes. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I think Sammy Watkins, let Jared Goff and the Los Angeles Rams down. If you go into that fourth quarter, he has a crossing route, which he has an opportunity to catch a touchdown, and he drops the ball. Jared Goff puts it on him. There was also some balls downfield that Sammy didn't really fight for. He didn't compete for. And when you are a top 5 pick, when you are a guy who was brought over to add explosiveness to this offense, you need to show up for your team in big games, and Sammy Watkins did not.
We're talking to Ryan Clark right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Let's transition to the AFC for a quick second and a loss. Kansas City, obviously we didn't expect much. I told you I didn't believe in Alex Smith. You got a 21-3 halftime lead. You can't stop the bleeding. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. But Kareem Hunt is also somebody that jumps out of my mind because like was the case with Todd Gurley, even Andy Reid lamented the fact that he only gave Kareem Hunt 11 carries. What are your thoughts about Andy Reid and his potential future with the Kansas City Chiefs? What do you think it should be?
Well, I think Andy Reid should be there. Obviously, it takes a blow today because Matt Nagy becomes the head coach of the Chicago Bears, who was the offensive coordinator in Kansas City and had taken over play calling. But when you lose Travis Kelce, when you have an 18-point lead and you have the leading rusher in the NFL, and this guy doesn't get carries in the second half, that's a coaching error. That's not doing the right things from a play calling standpoint. And that's a huge reason why the Kansas City Chiefs lost. I mean, you can point to other things, and I know you say you don't believe in Alex Smith. But when you're up 21-3, when you're up 21-3 and you don't give the ball to Kareem Hunt, that's on the coaches. That's not Alex Smith.
That's not Alex Smith, and I agree with you there. But at the same time, 21-3, you can't stop the bleeding. I can't completely absolve him, particularly when you came into the playoffs, knowing that there was a big game for you because your future is at stake because you got people clamoring for Patrick Mahomes just to move beyond your game management era.
Right, well, listen, I know, and you know that when they went and got Patrick Mahomes this offseason in the draft, that Alex Smith's days were numbered, whether he would have taken this team to a Super Bowl or not. But you can't blame this loss on Alex Smith. You can't blame a lot of the woes that they had this season when they had that lull in the middle of the season on Alex Smith. And I know many people will want to. They would say he's a game manager. He's a guy that hasn't won football games. But I think sometimes too much of the blame is put on the quarterback when this was more coaching errors and decisions that they didn't make as a coaching staff in Kansas City as opposed to Alex Smith not making plays.
Ryan Clark, let's transition back to the NFC. Cam Newton, you had a problem with him not being taken out of the game and not taken back to the locker room because I didn't. What was your issue?
I did. And not because I necessarily think Cam had a concussion or I think that, but when you talk about player safety, when you see what happened to Tom Savage, when you see what happened with Russell Wilson, if you're going to continue to make a lot of noise about player safety and its concussion protocol and things being overhauled, and then you have this blatant disrespect of the rules, you have this blatant disregard for a player who seemingly was at least hurt. He was at least injured. A guy that lays on the ground after he's hit that way, a guy that basically is on all fours at some point, even if the team was telling him to get down so Derek Anderson can warm up. When it looks that way, when the optics and the aesthetics of it are as bad as they were, and you don't take him to the back and you don't bring him into the locker room and have him looked over by an independent doctor, it shows that you weren't as serious about the concussion protocol as you are about having your stars play in big moments on TV.
Ryan Clark right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance with more than 30 unique coverage options available. Progressive knows small business. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. Let's stay with the NFC because I'm looking at Atlanta right now, and I got to confess to you, listen, I'm no fan of Nick Foles. When Carson Wentz went down, I still believed, however, looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, the way they were playing collectively, the way everybody else was chipping in and stepping up, Nick Foles could at least manage you to a Super Bowl appearance. Then he's wet the bed over the last 2 weeks. I don't like the way he has looked at all. Your thoughts about your expectations for this week's matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field?
I mean, you're right to be concerned. If you look at the way Nick Foles has played ever since that last last couple of drives against the Los Angeles Rams. He's not playing winning football. He's turning the ball over. This team is not moving the ball at the clip that they were with Carson Wentz, and nobody expected him to be Carson Wentz. But just like you, I expected him to be serviceable. I expected him to be a starting NFL quarterback caliber player, and he has not. And going against the Atlanta Falcons, who are experienced, who are hitting their stride, who are hitting their peak right now, they should be underdogs. And Vegas has it right, and I think the spread is right. I expect Atlanta to go in and win, especially if this defense that flies around plays the way it has down the stretch of the season. I think the Eagles are in for a very, very long day.
What are your expectations for New Orleans and their visit to Minnesota?
I think it's going to be the game of the week. I think that's going to be the game that we point to with excitement, with a little bit of intrigue, right? Because you have Drew Brees, who showed again this weekend that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's an MVP type of player when Carolina stops the run, but you're playing against this defense that's amazing in Minnesota. And this team playing with Case Keenum, they're not winning in spite of Case Keenum. They're winning because of him. I think the Minnesota Vikings pull it out. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a game that goes down to the wire. It won't be like the game in week 1, but Case Keenum makes enough plays. This defense puts enough pressure on Drew Brees, able to rush forward, play zone on the back end. This team is primed and ready to actually host a Super Bowl game and play in it as well.
I said, to me, I look at the game of the week being the Steelers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't expect Ben Roethlisberger to throw 5 interceptions against this team as he did last October 8th. I don't expect Le'Veon Bell to only get 15 carries. Obviously, I don't expect Antonio Brown to have 10 receptions for 157 yards either, but I certainly don't expect Leonard Fournette to run for 181 yards. I'm not nervous about this game at all. Shall I say the same for you, or do I hear a bit of nervousness in the voice of Ryan Clark, former Super Bowl champion with the Steelers? What is it?
I was a little nervous. I'm a little nervous about the defense, but Blake Bortles takes that away for me. When you watch how Blake Bortles has played the last 3 weeks, especially what you saw from him yesterday, not being able to complete short passes, which they were trying to scheme to give him easy throws, that doesn't scare me. Obviously, this defense is the real deal. They had 5 interceptions against Ben Roethlisberger, 2 for pick 6. In that game, but Ben says he wants to show that he's not that quarterback, and I think we know that. Le'Veon Bell will be huge in this game. He's a guy that'll run the ball and get a lot of touches, but they've had other players come along in Antonio Brown's absence that weren't playing as much of a role at the time they played Jacksonville. So I think that the Steelers win. I think it'll be a good game. I think defensively Jacksonville will show up, but when you give me Blake Bortles or Ben Roethlisberger, I'm going with Ben every time.
Last question before I let you get on out of here. Transitioning to college just for a second. You know, we talk about these quarterbacks, Josh Rosen out of UCLA, Sam Darnold out of USC, Baker Mayfield out of Oklahoma. Now we learn Lamar Jackson out of Louisville. Last year's Heisman Trophy winner is entering the NFL draft. What kind of future do you see for him on the next level?
I think Lamar Jackson can play. I'm very impressed. I think he has a ton of arm talent, very much like Michael and what he can do running, obviously, but also in the way that he can pass the ball. He's going to need to be coached up. He's going to have to get acclimated to the NFL game and the tight windows you have to throw it in. But if he gets with the right coordinator, if he gets with the right quarterback, which we see makes a ton of difference for these young quarterbacks and young football players, Lamar Jackson can be extremely productive, but he has to go somewhere where they believe in him, and I think that'll be the only way you draft him anyway. Lamar Jackson is going to be successful, and I think he has a ton of upside at the position of his athletic ability.
Well, let me just say this, Ryan Clark. Don't go hiding when I'm looking for you this week, and the Steelers better not mess up. That's all I know. So I'm going to be looking for you. I tried to tell Louis Riddick that the Rams were going to mess up because of their inexperience, and it happened. But the Steelers, I don't think they'll let me down. Just make sure you ain't hard to find.
Yes,
Take it easy. Ryan Clark, NFL analyst extraordinaire for ESPN, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Back with your calls and more in a minute. Stephen A. live from the site of the national championship game, Atlanta, Georgia, the ATL. Georgia, Alabama going up against one another for the national title tonight. And I'm in the house. More of that to come in a minute.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Lots of stuff to get into. Over the next 40 minutes or so right here, the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you in over 250-plus markets throughout the United States of America. And, of course, nationwide, Sirius XM style, ESPN Radio, Channel 80. Number to call, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. We're getting into the national championship game, the NFL playoffs, and, of course, LaVar Ball's comments about Luke Walton's and the National Basketball Coaches Association retort to his diatribe. Not just about LaVar Ball, but about ESPN. Let's get right to it. Let's go to Carlton in Tampa. You're live with Stephen A. Good afternoon, Carlton. Good morning. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, but ESPN has officially jumped the shark as of this morning, and I'm going to tie it into both the LaVar Ball issue and you and Max Kellerman's commentary this morning, lionizing Cam Newton and ripping Alex Smith, okay?
Go ahead.
So as far as LaVar Ball, Stephen A., you would be right if Goodman, in his article, had any balance whatsoever. All he did was provide a forum for the absolute nonsense coming out of LaVar Ball. No quotes from anybody in the L.A. Lakers, no context, no actual saying that.
Stop right there. Stop right there, Carlton. Is it the first time in all your years of watching sports that you have ever seen an article written where somebody simply had a comment going off about somebody else? Because I can give you one off the top of my head.
It was an entire LaVar Ball diatribe about anything and everything.
No, Carlton, you have to answer my question. I remember a time when Kobe Bryant went off on Shaquille O'Neal, and that was the entire article. That night, we spoke to Shaquille O'Neal. The next day, we spoke to Shaquille O'Neal. The next day, we spoke to Phil Jackson, and we got responses. But all that article was Kobe Bryant going off about Shaquille O'Neal years ago. That's just one example of men. I'm saying it's happened. All I'm saying to you is this. In other words, you're Jeff Goodman. You're in Lithuania. LaVar Ball says something about Luke Walton, and you quoted him. Nobody stopped
him. He didn't quote him. The entire article was LaVar Ball's diatribe. The whole thing was a basic LaVar Ball pitch.
Is that not a quote? Is that not a quote?
No,
is that not a quote?
Quotes. It's a forum for anything LaVar Ball wants to say.
Listen, hold on, time out. Wait a minute. I can assure you, as somebody who has been in the presence of LaVar Ball, that he said a hell of a lot more. The point is that if you're quoting the man, you're quoting him. The principle of quoting the man is quoting the man. It's not like Luke Walton can't be approached later on, and then you get his quote, and then you write what he says. And if Magic Johnson has something to say, you'd write what he said. Who the hell is everybody else to sit up there and act like, oh, my God, LaVar Ball said this, so we can't even print what the hell he quoted until we get a quote from Luke Walton? How come you can't get the quote from Luke Walton that night? If Carlton has something to say about Stephen A., and Carlton, for some reason, was relevant in the news, and by the way, I think you should be a hell of a lot more relevant than LaVar Ball. But I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, if you had something to say, and you were in Russia, and you said something that was going to generate news, and they quoted you, because the reporter hasn't spoken to me yet, I don't write the damn quotes from Carlton? Why y'all nitpicking like that for?
You keep mischaracterizing it. It wasn't a quote with any context. It was LaVar Ball's diatribe. It was a stream
and so what? He's the father of the point guard of the Lakers.
It's complete nonsense. If you put it in some context, saying this is going to get LaVar and this is going to get his son Lonzo in
Wait a minute. Y'all don't get to say, I'm not talking about you directly, Carlton, but you in America don't get to do that. You don't get to sit up there just the same way people used to joke about Donald Trump, and then the next thing you know, he turns up, he's the damn president of the United States. The fact of the matter is that you have people. You're quoting them. Yeah, even if it's a diatribe. All you did was play the diatribe. Luke Walton can respond. You don't have to. It's not like you have to hold out until you get a comment from Luke Walton before echoing what LaVar Ball had to say. And by the way, whether we like it or not, Last time I checked, that doesn't. Someone's idiocy, someone's lunacy, someone's classlessness, inappropriate verbiage, or whatever you want to call it, was never a reason before not to put him in the news. The man is the father of the point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers, talking about the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. I think he's wrong. Classless, beyond the pale. I think what he's done is betrayal to Magic Johnson, to the Lakers, even to his own son. But Jeff Goodman quoting the man is not a crime. It's not a crime. The crime is LaVar Ball saying it.
No context whatsoever in the story. None. The real story is he's getting his son in deep freaking trouble.
That's true, too. Time out. That's us talking about it on radio. We're going to talk about that on television and beyond. There's nothing that's stopping us from doing that in the moment. And in terms of context, if the man is saying Luke Walton's lost the team, this guy can't coach. He doesn't need to be coached. He doesn't need to be the coach of the Lakers. Lakers got tied for the worst record in the Western Conference. Now, I don't think that's Luke Walton's fault entirely, but they lost 9 straight. They got the worst record in the Western Conference. Lonzo Ball hasn't been anything compared to what was expected of him, at least at this point, even though he's been coming on as of late. Some people would say that is context. I don't. But some people would say that. The point is, there's nothing wrong with quoting the man's diatribe about Luke Walton. It's not like Luke Walton and the Lakers don't get to respond. That's all I'm saying. That's
nonsense on your show today with Max Kellerman about Cam Newton and Alex Smith. Alex Smith was the #1 highest-rated quarterback in the NFL this year. Cam Newton, by the way, was 24th. Alex Smith had the second highest yards per good old check down, had the second highest yards per attempt in the NFL this year. Cam Newton was way down. Cam Newton has a lifetime completion ratio of 58.5%. Alex Smith completed over 67% of his passes this year. And all you guys did was lionize Cam Newton.
First of all, I'm not going to be accused of lionizing Cam Newton. I didn't think he lost Sunday's game, but I've religiously lamented the completion percentage of Cam Newton. But let me say this. You don't have no damn credibility in this subject, Carlton. And that's saying a lot coming from you because I think you're brilliant. But you love Alex Smith just like you loved Ryan Fitzpatrick. In the world of Carlton from Massachusetts, who's now from Tampa because he relocated after retirement, God bless you. I'm happy for you to move it for a tax-free state with warmer weather. The reality is that you walk around thinking Ryan Fitzpatrick is the second coming of Tom Brady. So you don't have any damn credibility with this subject. And as far as Alex Smith goes, with his 2-5 career playoff record having self, 1-4 in Kansas City, by the way, nobody believes in Alex Smith but you. He's good. He's a game manager. He's not a scrub, but he is no difference maker, Carlton. And that's a fact.
Rating in the league this year, Stephen A.
Who cares? Who cares? Don't just give me numbers. Don't you just call up here just giving me numbers. You have eyes. You've got 20/20 vision. You know what an eye test is, and you know good and damn well Alex Smith ain't the answer, which is why Kansas City is about to move beyond him and get Patrick Mahomes. There's dudes that are made for September through December, and come January, they might as well be sitting on a couch watching the game like you and I. And Alex Smith is one of those people. That's right. I said it. And you know it. Have a nice day, Carlton. I'll deal with you tomorrow. People get scared of Carlton. I love him. So there's no reason for me to be scared of him. But damn it, he's wrong here. He has no credibility when it comes to quarterbacks when he treats Ryan Fitzpatrick like he's Tom Brady. You stop it, Carlton. You just stop it. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Starting off the year with a little romance is easy at 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen. Absolutely, positively free. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Number to call them as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Emmanuel in Washington. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, man?
How you doing, Stephen A?
I'm doing all right. Go ahead, buddy.
All right, so I wanted to talk to you because I've heard you talk about my team all year. Now, I'm a Georgia fan. My dad got his PhD at UGA, and I've been a Georgia fan my whole entire life. Every single year, I bet on UGA to win the national championship. But I heard you after we lost to Auburn when you were sitting there roasting us, and I remember you saying, Now, I don't like to clown on 18-year-olds, but you sat there and roasted us from top to bottom.
Come out. Stop. You said you're a Georgia fan, right?
You're not giving the...
Hold on, listen. Are you going to listen to me or not? Hello? Oh, he's not listening. Goodbye, Emmanuel. That's what happens when you don't listen, buddy. Let's go to Dan in Kansas City. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hi, Stephen A. Yeah, I just turned 50 last month. I got 3 points to make. I don't understand. After Kelsey left the game, I don't understand why Kareem Hunt didn't get the ball more in the second half and why Tyreek Hill didn't go downhill. That would have been easier to, and they would have won.
Well, listen, Andy Reid, and then see, that's why at least you listen. That's why I had to hang up on Emmanuel because he kept talking and he wouldn't listen to me point out about his Georgia team. How didn't he crucify them after they got obliterated by Auburn that day as well? But that's a different subject for another day. Getting back to your Chiefs, let's understand something, Dan. They should have gave the ball to Kareem Hunt more. Can't run the ball 11 times. Got to be able to run the ball more effectively. You got to be able to take advantage of what you need to take advantage of. And you can't lose a 21-3 lead, to Tennessee. Marcus Mariota was the quarterback of this team, for crying out loud. You gave up 156 yards rushing to Derrick Henry. 156 yards. You can't allow that if you're Kansas City. That's what they did. And that's, to me, other than that, that's Alex Smith's and Kansas City's inability to stop the bleeding. You look at Andy Reid, they're talking about Bob Sutton, get rid of the defensive coordinator. They talk about getting rid of the offensive line coach. They talk about getting rid of Andy Reid's son. They talk about getting rid of Alex Smith. The point is, if you're Andy Reid, all of this is happening under your watch. You got to do something better, Dan. You just got to do something better.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah. And my second point is, do you think Mike Brown's being loyal to Marvin Lewis? Is that why Marvin Lewis has been sticking so around in Cincinnati?
When you talk about Marvin Lewis, listen, I think Brown, you could talk about loyalty, but I also think that he knows he could either get Marvin Lewis on the cheap or get Marvin Lewis to get players on the cheap. And as a result, you keep making money. If you make the postseason or you tinker towards making the postseason, that's the definition of success. But I think Marvin Lewis's tenure in Cincinnati is an absolute travesty. I don't think anybody that can't win a playoff game in 15 years deserves to be a head coach on any professional team in any professional sports. 15 years? That's just ridiculous. I appreciate the call, Dan. Thank you so much. Stu in Englewood, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen? How you doing?
I'm good. Talk to me.
I was calling to see, because everybody's talking about these LaVar comments that he made about Luke Walton, but from the outside looking in, I want to know, even though they wasn't right the way he made them, do you agree with him? Do you think Luke Walton has lost the team?
I don't know. I don't know, but it remains to be seen. You're in the middle of the season, and it's something that might need to be addressed at the end of the season. I think I like the development of Kuzma. I see guys like Randall and Lance Larry Nance Jr. and others playing hard. I see Lonzo Ball getting better and better. So when I'm looking at Luke Walton, again, am I high on Luke Walton? I can't be at this particular juncture because he's given me no reason to be. But I also recognize how young of a team they are, how they're devoid of veteran leadership, and you combine that with the fact that Luke Walton is young himself, and it's relatively predictable what's happening. What I will say is that Luke Walton needs to be mindful of is the fact that neither Magic Johnson nor Rob Pelinka hired Luke Walton. That was a Jim Buss and Jeannie Buss hire. So now that Magic Johnson is running the show, it's entirely plausible that Magic Johnson may decide to go in a different direction at the end of this season. We don't know, but I do know this much. LaVar Ball certainly didn't make it any easier because now you're in one of those situations where if Magic Johnson decided to make a change, you'd have people out there intimating that LaVar Ball is the one that stoked the flames or provoked it. And LaVar Ball would definitely try to take credit for it if you're looking at, if you pay attention to his personality, which is not a good thing for Magic Johnson. It's not a good situation for Magic Johnson to be in. So all around, it's just a bad look right now for the Lakers.
Right. Okay, Stephen, I appreciate your answer, man.
Thank you. Take it easy. JP in Brooklyn, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, buddy. How you doing?
Happy New Year's, baby. This is the first time we talked this New Year's, and I'm happy to hear from you.
Thank you.
You're doing an excellent job. Now, Stephen, one big point. Say, for instance, Nick Saban wins the national championship. Why should he stay? Why not go to the league? I would love him to come to the Giants, but, anywhere. Because I want to see him square up against a New England's coach.
Well, here's my response to that. That's what you want to see. That might not be what Nick Saban wants to do. And if there's one thing that's undeniable, he's earned the right to do what he wants to do. At Alabama for 11 years, his record is 131-20. That's an 86.8% winning percentage. In terms of bowl games, his record is 8-4. At Alabama. So we're looking at him right now. The guy's got 4 national championships, 5 overall, 4 at Alabama. You got to give credit where credit is due and just say, listen, would I like to see Nick Saban prove himself on the NFL level? Sure. Just like I'd like to see Gino Auriemma prove himself in male sports and collegiate basketball. But guess what? The level of dominance that they've established, maybe they're comfortable with that.
See him, in a Giants uniform or in the NFL period.
Right.
Him, coaching an NFL team. Another question I have for you real quick. Who is that 7'3" weight dude playing in KP's body, yesterday? Because he looked completely different. You saw him do the shimmy shake down low?
Yeah, I got you. I hear what you're saying. But we'll see. I got to run, JP. Got some bills to pay, all right? We'll talk tomorrow. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. More of your calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
It all comes down to this. The College Football Playoff National Championship, presented by AT&T. Coverage begins tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and the ESPN app. One of my boys, my best friends in the world, my man Jeff Brown, works for AT&T. To the executives there, he's one of the best. Give him a raise, please. Pretty please. We're shook on top. Plus, he's got a boy, a son, my godson, Nicholas, special young man, incredibly bright future ahead of him. Jeff could use all the money he can get because he's going to have to help that boy get through school. He's going to pass. He's going to give him good grades. But school's expensive. AT&T. Give Jeff Brown a raise. Pretty please. Sugar on top. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Before I get into my thing about the national championship, I want to switch gears and get away from sports for just a quick second by congratulating the lovely and the wonderful iconic figure that she is, Miss Oprah Winfrey. She accepted the Cecil B. DeMille Award at the Golden Globes. Congratulations. Very, very worthy of any reward she receives. We love this woman. We love her dearly. Let me say that. And so the talk is percolating about Oprah for president based off of her speech. I'm not going to get into it other than to say this. She'd have my vote. I'd campaign for her, too. And I don't say that about too many people. And contrary to what some may believe, it's not just because she's an African American, because there's plenty of African Americans I would not do that for. Not only is she intelligent, accomplished, obviously having her own money, she can't be bought. That certainly helps. But her career, if not her life, has shown that she cares about the less fortunate amongst us all. And that she would think about folks far more than she would think about herself. And I think when you're thinking about a leader, you want someone like that. When you're thinking about potentially the first woman to become the president of the United States of America, you want someone just like that. I don't know if she needs it or she should want it, because Lord knows they're going to be invasive and try to get all into your personal life and your personal business. And Oprah will not hesitate to shed some tears. As strong of a woman as she is, she cries like a lot of folks do. And you know how people interpret that in the world of politics. But I will tell you, the the country would be a better place if we had her as the leader of the free world. She'd have my vote. Anybody up running against her need not even apply for this vote. I'd vote for Oprah in a heartbeat. I just wanted to mention that. Gary in San Antonio, you got 30 seconds. Go.
I just wanted to say, as far as LaVar, I don't agree with everything he says, but as far as like the Lakers go, if you look at them, I mean, they play two different styles of basketball just inside the game. I mean, so I don't even think he should be our coach too much longer anyway. I mean, Mike Brown, you see how quick he got hooked, and that was just going 1-4. So how he's still the coach, I really don't know. Maybe it's his sachet. Last thing, just want to say, appreciate the picture you took with me outside of Fort Worth last year. Just framed it the other day. Appreciate it, man.
I got to go. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Probably right. Good points about Luke Walton. Can't deny that. As it pertains to tonight's national championship game, I am here in Atlanta. I'm going with the Tide. Roll Tide. I think Nick Saban and his defense, despite the fact Jake Fromm will have a good game, it won't be a monster game like Deshaun Watson had last year. That's what will be needed to beat Alabama. It will not happen. Alabama 31, Georgia 20. Peace and love.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.